Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make some creamed asparagus on toast. This is a real favorite of mine in the spring, and it's almost springtime. Asparagus is on sale and I couldn't resist. So I'd like to share my really simple recipe for one or two. You can do however many you want. But we'll begin with asparagus on toast. So I've got the asparagus here. Got a few, about, I'm guessing 4, maybe more, however you like. I washed the asparagus in the sink. And then I snap it. Asparagus tends to be woody on the bottom. You can hear the snap. When it snaps that easily, that's where it wants to snap. And you can eat the rest of it. But this is woody. People sometimes do this for soup, but I don't. And some people like to leave it long. But, you know, we're getting old here and we need pieces. So I put it into pieces, snap it into pieces. This is 4, and you can use more or less, probably more if anything.
So you would say this would be enough for like one
this
portion?
This is for
Alice.
one. You can do this in the microwave, but I like to do it on top of the stove, and I use just a very, very little water. And I turn it on, and I also use a minimum amount of salt. I think the recipe calls for half a teaspoon, but I don't even use that. I just sprinkle a tiny bit because cheese is salty. So, and you need equal amounts of butter and flour.
Okay, so how much do you have for this recipe for one?
This particular recipe is a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of flour.
Perfect. All right, so those are those ingredients.
Those are these ingredients. A half a cup of milk, and this is whole milk. And again, you can vary this. If you're not a whole milk drinker, use whatever you have on hand.
Okay, great.
And I salted the asparagus, and then I've got a half a cup of, this is cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar. But you might, in fact, prefer Velveeta. Velveeta sometimes makes a creamier sauce. Or mozzarella, or I like sharp, but I also mix them. Sometimes I use a little of this and a little of that.
Excellent.
I do this so often.
And then you have a little pepper back there?
I have pepper.
Okay.
And in season, I also have a small herb garden, and in season I'll add chopped up asparagus or chopped up chives or chopped up, parsley, not asparagus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And that just adds flavor, or a little garlic powder or onion. And you can put that in with the butter. If you're going to do onion, saute it a little bit in the butter.
Okay.
Because it'll pick up the flavor. Do not overcook your asparagus. It really needs to be fork tender. Just barely cooked. You want the taste of the asparagus. So this has been about 2 minutes.
Okay, I'd say so.
It's very tender. I want to take it right off the stove. I'll take it to my sink and drain it. And that's my asparagus cooked and ready to go. And then the next step is to take the butter. And this is a tablespoon of butter. And this is the tablespoon of flour. And you'll want to cook this roux, as you call it, for just a tiny bit, a minute or so, so you don't get that floury taste. And you keep the heat low, low, low.
Low heat. Okay.
Low heat. And you see the flour is melting very nicely. It's not grainy, it's not chunky. And I'm going to add the half cup milk at this time. And I keep stirring. Now this is not the time to abandon this and go set your table or something. You want to keep stirring because the milk and the flour will settle to the bottom. This is just half a cup. This will not take long.
Now this is probably something that you could do in the microwave as well if people
I think
wanted
yes.
to.
Oh, yeah, I
Just
think
so you have a large
Yes.
enough dish so it wouldn't boil over.
It's just that, you know, I've been cooking for, I don't know, 70 years, and I just didn't start with a microwave. And so I'm not in love with the microwave quite as much as most people are. My kids love their microwaves, couldn't keep house without them. And, you know, I use mine too, but
This is just the standard way you made things,
is
and
the way
that's
I
what
do
you're
it, yes.
used to.
I can feel it already thickening up here.
Okay.
And I want it to bubble just a bit. And then we're ready to add the asparagus.
Okay.
The asparagus are still plenty warm. And this meets the food groups. You get your milk, you get your protein, you get your vegetable, and if we add a little fruit to the plate, you get fruit and you meet all the food groups. It isn't quite bubbling yet. For just a half a minute or a minute so that the floury taste disappears, because you don't want to taste flour. And then I add the asparagus.
Asparagus.
Cheese is the very last thing that goes in, because
Okay.
you want the cheese just barely melted. This is, you know, widows and widowers, we always called you guys the tea and toast generation. You don't worry about yourselves much. You don't like to cook much for yourselves, so you have a piece of toast, a cup of tea. And this is almost as easy. I'm going to put the asparagus in. Yep, it's bubbling. So the asparagus goes in now, and I keep cooking it just a little bit more.
It's just so silky.
Yes,
You spent the time to.
And again, if you use Velveeta, it's really good to put Velveeta in. That makes a very creamy sauce. I just happen to like cheddar. But sometimes I use mozzarella. Depends on what I've got on hand. And now, at this point, I'm going to put my piece of toast down.
Okay.
Toaster. And, oop, I got it bubbling. My half a cup of cheese. And this is very cheesy, but good nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, you need it.
Yeah, you need the protein.
It's a piece of toast, and I don't put anything else on it. And I always use a scraper because I don't like to waste. That comes from being a cook in poverty for all those years.
There
You don't
you
want
go.
to waste.
Fantastic.
Enjoy your two. And then what I like to do is add a little bit of fruit to the plate. Strawberry. And you have a
Beautiful.
complete meal.
Look at that. Well, thank you, Alice. It looks delicious. You take a bite and then you tell us how good it is.
All right.
That's great. That's what you think of as spring when you taste that dish. Fantastic. Well, everyone, make this. We're so happy that Alice had us up again for the trifecta. She gets so many viewers, and I so appreciate everything
Thank
she
you.
does. You're welcome. See you next time.